Hi everyone, this is the online lecture for unemployment. There'll be a final addition to your ADAS model towards the end, and you need to learn about some calculations when we look at the labor force as a whole in the economy. Okay, so some calculations parts and the final addition to your ADAS. Now, this is how we view the labor market in general. Now, when you're of age, in Singapore, it's 15 years old and above. Okay, so once you're old enough to work, you are calculated under a resource. So you enter this outer area here. You're part of the working age population where you remain, okay, for the rest of your life. Now, you are legally able to work, but it doesn't mean that you want to work. Now, if you want to work, you'll be in this inner area we call the labor force. Okay, and if you want to work and you cannot find work, you are part of these unemployed people. Okay, most people will be employed. Okay, they want to work and they're working. All right, so the unemployed people here are those who want to work but cannot find job. Those people who don't want to work and are not working, they are the in between. Can they work legally? Yes, because they're of age. Okay, but they don't want to work, so they'll be the in between. They'll be in this place where they're in between. Okay, because they don't want to work. All right. Okay, so your working age population refers to people aged 15 years and above. Okay, 15 years old and above, you are legally able to work. And the unemployed people are people who wants to work but are now not working because they can't find a job. Okay, but they must be wanting to work in the first place. Then they are counted as unemployed people. Let's take a look at the labor force and who are the people that's inside the labor force. Yeah. The labor force consists of people legally able to work and wanting to work. Alright, now as mentioned earlier, they might be looking for a job, that means unemployed, or they could be holding on to a job now, employed. Alright, so labor force is just the adding up of those people who are employed and the number of people who are unemployed. Both add up together will form your labor force. Let's take a look at the map again. So labor force consists of your unemployed people and your employed people. Okay, so your labor force is the number of people who wants to work. Out of those who are legally able to work, these are the people that wants to work. Okay, so your labor force is this inner area here, consisting of the employed plus unemployed. Okay, these two groups of people. All right, we already said earlier that the similarity between these two groups is that they want to work. That's why they are part of the labor force. Okay, those people who are in between are people who legally can work but no longer wants to work or don't want to work. All right. In the lecture, some of you are asking who are these people in between. They could be students like you, okay, who are now studying. They are legally able to work because most of you are more than 15. And there'll be some people who are already retired, okay, no longer wants to work, but can they work legally? Yes, they can. All right. So these are example of people who are in the in-between areas. Now let's take a look at the calculation of the unemployment rate. Now your unemployment rate is one of the statistics that you need to look for your project. Okay, so you must understand what it is. Now your unemployment rate, all right, is obtained from taking the number of people who are unemployed over the labor force. Take note, it's over labor force, not your working age population. All right, you're looking at the number of people who wants to work but cannot find job as a percentage. All right, of everyone who wants to work. Okay, let's take a look at the map again. So we're looking at the percentage of this inner area, all right, as a percentage of this labor force, which is a larger area. Okay, so the percentage is taken, this group as a percentage of this area, not the working age population, only this inner labor force area. Okay. Let's take a look at the labor force participation rate, which calculates out of those who are legally able to work, how many of them actually wants to work. Okay, now we use this formula, labor force divided by the working age population. Okay, is labor force, that means those people who are willing to work, divided by working age population. These are the total number of people who are legally able to work. Then you times 100%. All right, let's take a look at the map and see what we're talking about. Now, so we are calculating this inner area, which is labor force, which is the number of people who wants to work as a percentage of this outer area here, which is the total number of people who are legally able to work. Okay, so this labor force participation rate will tell us, okay, as a percentage, how many people can wants to work out of those people who can work legally. All right. Now, I mentioned in lecture that one of the things that this labor force participation rate can tell us is how old the population is, or how young the population is. Okay. Now, because um, if the participation rate is low, it's an indication that the population is getting older, because most older people, having worked all their lives, they are probably already retired. Okay, so they are not wanting to work at an advanced age. Whereas younger people tend to want to work. So when the participation rate is low, that's an indicator that there's a lot of people in between. That means can work but no longer wants to work. Okay, so this labor force number of people becomes smaller as a percentage. Okay, as a part of the working age population. So a low rate is indicating that the population is older than a rate that is higher. Okay, because younger people prefers to work while older people prefers not to work. That's the usual assumption. Okay. Now we have learned how to calculate unemployment rate, which is the number of people who cannot find jobs. They want to work but they cannot find jobs. Let's take a look at the different types of unemployment that we have. These are the three, you must remember them for your tests and exams. Okay, what is frictional, structural, and cyclical unemployment? Let's take a look. Now, for frictional unemployment, okay, it's a temporary unemployment. People who are moving between jobs, they have just quit one job, they are starting the next, but meanwhile they are not working, so they are under a very temporary kind of unemployment, which we call frictional. Okay, another example would be you have graduated from TP and then you're trying to find a job, job coming but not yet, and you're not working yet. This short period that you're not working is known as frictional unemployment. Okay, we mentioned in lecture that what can encourage or allow people to find jobs faster by holding job fairs, for instance. Okay, when people are graduating, there's job fairs and then there's other information, so as to guide people to the jobs that are looking for them more effectively. Alright, but frictional unemployment is basically a temporary or very short period kind of unemployment, transitional unemployment. Okay, very short period, temporary kind of days without work. Alright, so people moving between jobs and people just graduating. Alright. Now, structural unemployment is a very serious form of unemployment when there's a mismatch of skills. Now, mismatch of skills is when what you know or your experience becomes outdated. It's no longer needed in the industry. Okay, so this occurs when there's a change in technology or your industry is no longer there, perhaps move to another country, and what you know and what your experience was is no longer needed. Alright, so you become structurally unemployed. Okay, one way to resolve this is to go to some upgrading courses, go back to school, alright, to equip yourself again to get out of structural unemployment. Okay, basically what you know and your experience are already outdated. So we call this a mismatch of skills. What the industry want, you don't have. Okay, what you have is no longer needed. Okay, that's structural unemployment. Now, cyclical unemployment is the usual unemployment that we see when the economy is not doing well. Okay, now we call this involuntary unemployment. Now it happens when there's a recession in the economy, okay, and there's a lack of demand for goods and services. So example will be companies firing people. Now the people that loses their job are people who are skilled. Okay, they can work and they have the right experience, but because the economic climate is no good, they are let off from their jobs. Okay, this is cyclical unemployment. Now, cyclical unemployment is identified in the on the ADS diagram whenever you see a recessionary gap. Okay, it happens only when there's a recession, when people are let off involuntarily. They can work, they got the right experience, but they loses their job. They lose their job because the economic climate is bad. Okay. Now, in a situation where there's full employment, all available resources are fully utilized, there are no cyclical unemployment. Okay, cyclical unemployment only happens when in a recession. Okay, but take note, frictional and structural unemployment, these two types are always present. There will always be people moving in between jobs, always have people graduating, waiting for jobs to start. And we always have structural unemployment whereby people are made redundant because of a mismatch of skills. Okay, these two are always present. Okay, now as long as there's no cyclical unemployment, okay, we call this full employment already. All right. Now take note again. Um, we have this term called natural unemployment rate. Now at full employment, what you have is only frictional and structural. Okay, so these two added up together, they will give us our natural unemployment rate. Now natural because they're always there. Okay, so in the economy at full employment, when you don't have any cyclical unemployment, what you have is only frictional plus structural. This will be our natural unemployment rate. It's natural, it must be there. Okay, therefore your unemployment rate can never be at zero, can never, because there'll always be frictional and structural unemployment. All right, so at full employment, where all your resources are put into use, your unemployment rate at that output level is your natural rate. Okay, so your unemployment rate, let's say at full employment is 2%. This 2% comprises of all the frictional unemployed people and all the structural unemployed people. Together, they will form the natural rate of unemployment. Now, we read the natural rate of unemployment at full employment output. Okay, it's at that point of full employment output that we take a reading. How many people are frictionally unemployed or structurally unemployed, or two add up together. Okay, that will form our natural rate of unemployment. The reading for that is taken at full employment output. Although structural and frictional unemployment is there across the entire output spectrum. Okay, the reading is taken at full employment output. All right, so at that, whoever that's not employed because of frictional and structural unemployment, they form the natural rate of unemployment. Okay. Now, whenever your GDP is below full employment output level, so on the diagram you will see a recessionary gap. So when you see that, there will be cyclical unemployment occurs. Remember, it's involuntary. People who can work with the right experience, but they're let off from their job because of poor economic climate. Now, when that happens, okay, your unemployment rate will be more than the natural rate. Why? Because you got this additional cyclical unemployment adding into the percentage. Okay, so in a recessionary period, um, your unemployment rate will be higher than natural. Okay, natural is at full employment. Okay. Now, so far we have presented unemployment in a very direct and systematic way. Okay, the three types of unemployment. Now, in real life, the situation could be far more complex than that. I put a couple of links to videos on YouTube um, on real life unemployment cases. Okay, go and take a look and try to think about why are people not able to find jobs in those cases. Can they fit into what you have learned so far, into the three types of unemployment, cyclical, structural, frictional. Okay, and you will realize that the situation in real life is actually not so straightforward. All right, so do go and take a look. Now, this part we will have that final addition to our ADAS model, where we will read off changes to unemployment on the ADAS diagram. Now, this is the final addition to our ADAS model. Following this, we have fully expanded our ADAS model, okay, and you should know how to utilize it comfortably. Now, our unemployment on the ADS diagram is caused by two possible scenarios, AD shifting left and SRAS shifting left. Now, by now, you should know what causes AD to shift left and what causes SRAS to shift left. Okay, let's take a look at the diagrams. Okay, this is our ADS diagram. Now, the first case will be a fall in AD. Okay, we can see that AD shifts to the left. Now, by now you should know very clearly how AD shift to the left. It could be CIGX falling or your minus M rising. Okay. Now, as it shifts to the left, you note the indicators. Your price falls and then your real GDP falls. Okay. Now, how do we read off unemployment from the ADS diagram? Whenever your equilibrium point, okay, your equilibrium output causes your real GDP to fall, like in this case, YF, it falls to Y1. Okay, that means that your economy is producing less GDP. Okay, so when you produce less, of course, you will need less workers. As a result, unemployment rises. So whenever your equilibrium output is falling, unemployment will rise. Okay, so this is how you fill up the last indicator on ADS, which is unemployment. Okay, so follow your equilibrium output. Okay, let's take a look at another example. In this case, you have a fall in SRAS. Now, by now, you should know that a fall in SRAS is the result of an increase in the cost of production. It could be your wages rising, crude oil price rising, your steel price rising, okay, causing your cost to go up and then your SRAS to shift left. All right. Now, you see that your new equilibrium point after the shift is here, and the equilibrium output falls from the original YF to Y1. Okay, now as with the previous example, whenever your output falls, you need less workers, and that's why unemployment goes up. Okay, so reading unemployment on this ADS diagram is very straightforward. As long as your equilibrium output falls, your unemployment goes up. When your equilibrium output increases, okay, your unemployment will fall because you need more workers. All right. So this is the maximum extent of your ADAS for us. So practice more with various events and practice reading unemployment on the ADS diagram in your revision for the mid-sem test and also for your final exam. Okay, good luck.